Massive Liverpool update. Arne Slot speaks out on Mohamed Salah's future, hints at transfer plans and gives a warning to fans. Plus injury news ahead of the big Man City clash and exclusive insights from Szoboszlai. Don't miss this. Arne Slot launches passionate rant on Mo Salah's Liverpool exit. Careful with assumptions. Mohamed Salah has decided to leave Liverpool at the end of the season, months after a very public falling out with manager Arne Slot over his lack of game time and poor form. Arne Slot says he has no regrets over the way he handled the Mohamed Salah fallout earlier this season and insisted it is not behind his exit from Liverpool this summer. Salah announced recently that he will leave Liverpool at the end of the season. The 33-year-old will bow out at the end of a difficult campaign which saw him publicly call out Slot for leaving him on the bench. Back in December, Salah said his manager had thrown me under the bus by blaming him for the team's poor form. After being benched for 3 straight games, Salah claimed there is no relationship between himself and Slot and that someone doesn't want me in the club. The two eventually repaired their relationship, with Salah returning to the side, and Slot remains convinced he handled the situation as best he could. I look back at this season thinking that I made a few decisions that could have been better, but I'm not talking about this specific thing with Mo. Slot said in Friday's press conference ahead of Liverpool's FA Cup quarter-final against Manchester City. I don't regret many things I did during a little longer than 1.5 years together. Again, the assumption that if he's not playing, that he wants to leave, that's the assumption being made. Then he would have left 1.5 years ago. I can remember West Ham away when he wasn't playing under Jurgen Klopp in 2024. I wasn't there. He didn't decide to leave. The assumption is that if you don't play in these games and all of a sudden wants to leave, it is an assumption, and maybe it is true or maybe it isn't. But history has shown is that he did not do that previously and had a great season after that. When things like this are announced to the outside world, I don't think it's a surprise for you to hear that there are a lot of discussions, talks going on between him, his agent, the club, me and him before this comes out in the public. But as I always said, and I'm not going to change on what has been said between the two of us or between him and the club, that is something I'm not going to share. If he wants to share his reasons why he did it, then it's up to him, but that's not up to me to speak for him. I hear a lot being said about Liverpool, and one of the funny things about Liverpool is that almost everything that is out there is not true. What I mean is, I see sometimes that we are trying to sign players. I'm like, what is everybody talking about? We're not even considering the player or even talking about him at all. I think that's a big compliment to the people who work here. Even when I signed, there were a lot of other names mentioned when I already knew I already signed. So that says something about Liverpool. Slot also hinted that there was more to the situation that hadn't been made public. He added, so what appears to be true, especially in terms of Liverpool, is maybe not always true. I think Mo has earned the right completely to decide whenever he thinks he should leave. And he's done so many things for this club. He has to make up his own mind. And that's what he did. After that incident you are referring to at Leeds, which are incidents that happen everywhere around the world almost every day when it comes to football, you know what has happened afterwards? He went to the AFCON, and when he was back at the AFCON, he played every single game. So that's the answer to your question. The only one who can talk about it is Mo himself. So you are now making the assumption that he wants to leave because he was out for 6 days. But that doesn't have to be true. I would be surprised if there's not a moment when Mo's going to share his thoughts about why he made the decision he made. It's not up to me to do that. It's up to him. And I would not go into all these assumptions, and I would be, how do you say this in English? I would be careful with assumptions, yes. Liverpool versus PSG odds suggest narrow favourite in Champions League quarter-final. Little separates Liverpool and PSG in the betting odds ahead of the Champions League quarter-finals. But Arne Slot's men face an uphill climb as narrow underdogs to advance. Liverpool will enter the first leg of the Champions League quarter-final against PSG as slight underdogs to advance. Arne Slot's side has endured a difficult season to this point, but there is plenty still to play for coming out of the international break, including a vital FA Cup quarter-final against Manchester City on Saturday, before heading to France for the first leg of the Champions League quarter-final against PSG on Wednesday. It comes as Steven Gerrard named the moment that Liverpool's problems under Arne Slot began. Entering the tie, the Reds are slight plus 125 5/4 underdogs to advance past the reigning Champions League winners and exact revenge on Luis Enrique's side, who eliminated them from last year's competition in a dramatic penalty shootout in the round of 16. PSG, who breezed past Chelsea 8-2 on aggregate to reach the quarter-final, is the minus 175 4/7 favourite to advance ahead of Wednesday's first leg. Slot confirmed that Alexander Isak, who has not played since suffering a fractured fibula against Tottenham on Dickens, 20, and Jeremy Frimpong could be fit enough to feature on the bench as soon as this weekend against Man City, if not the games that follow. Meanwhile, Alisson will remain sidelined for the foreseeable future with a hamstring issue, so Georgi Mamardashvili will continue to feature in goal for the upcoming run of fixtures. For the host, Bradley Barcola could miss out with an ankle issue, while Fabian Ruiz is doubtful but nearing a return after 2 months out with a knee injury. Despite a disappointing Premier League run of 3 matches without a win, the Reds can take confidence from their emphatic 4-0 victory over Galatasaray in the second leg of the UCL round of 16, which secured their place in the quarter-finals. However, Slot faces a difficult balancing act this weekend against Manchester City. With a crucial tie against PSG looming, rotating the squad may not be a viable option and could potentially leave his side fatigued for the trip to Paris. Entering the UCL quarter-finals, Liverpool is 6th out of 8 remaining teams to lift the trophy at plus 900, 9/1, trailing Arsenal, Bayern Munich, Barcelona, PSG and Real Madrid. Only Atletico Madrid and Sporting Lisbon own longer odds than Slot's team. Ultimately, the results of these next 2 matches could play a decisive role in the manager's future beyond this season. 11 players could miss Man City versus Liverpool after Arne Slot and Pep Guardiola. Injury updates: Liverpool take on Man City in the FA Cup quarter-final at the Etihad Stadium on Saturday afternoon. Both Arne Slot and Pep Guardiola have given injury updates ahead of tomorrow's FA Cup quarter-final clash between Manchester City and Liverpool at the Etihad Stadium. City host the Reds fresh off the international break and their Carabao Cup triumph over Arsenal at Wembley Stadium. In contrast, Liverpool have struggled to repeat their title-winning form from last season and were beaten 3-1 by Brighton ahead of the international break, but are missing several key players through injury. Slot has delivered some major Liverpool injury updates ahead of the game. There were concerns regarding 4 players both before and during the international break, with hopes of a comeback for Alexander Isak growing over the coming weeks following Slot's latest assessment. Speaking on Friday, the Liverpool boss said it will definitely be too fast to expect him in the starting lineup. He trained with us yesterday for the first time and today for the second time after exactly 101 days. So it will take a bit of time. We will make sure we do the right thing in terms of building him up.
Mohamed Salah is among those who could feature from the start at the Etihad Stadium, with Slot delivering an encouraging update after the Egyptian missed the defeat to Brighton and his country's international fixtures. The Liverpool head coach confirmed he is fit. He trained with us yesterday, he will train with us today and is available for the game tomorrow. There was further positive news regarding Federico Chiesa and Jeremy Frimpong following their respective stints with Italy and the Netherlands. Chiesa returned to Liverpool early, while Frimpong was withdrawn just 13 minutes after coming on against Ecuador due to a potential injury concern, but Slot confirmed both players were back in training on Thursday. The 47-year-old was unable to offer any encouraging news regarding Alisson, with the shot-stopper set to sit out Liverpool's next 4 matches at the very minimum due to a hamstring problem. Slot said he will not be part of the Paris Saint-Germain games as well.
He will be out for a bit longer. Towards the end of the season, we expect him to be fit again. Alisson had only recently returned from a brief spell on the sidelines, but has now rejoined several other long-term Liverpool injury casualties. Taking to social media platform X on Friday afternoon, the goalkeeper posted his own update, writing, "I didn't suffer a new injury. I'm in the treatment phase and the plan is to be in full playing condition by the end of April. Wataru Endo, Conor Bradley and Giovanni Leone have all gone under the knife this season, with none of the 3 expected to feature again this campaign. Pep Guardiola has considerably fewer fitness worries ahead of the FA Cup showdown between Liverpool and City. Josko Guardiola remains their sole confirmed long-term absentee, while fellow defenders John Stones and Ruben Dias are also nursing concerns. The latter missed the Carabao Cup final against Arsenal through a hamstring complaint, but having enjoyed several weeks of rest, he could find himself in Saturday's squad. Greater uncertainty surrounds John Stones following his withdrawal from the England squad earlier this week, with Thomas Tuchel delivering an injury assessment upon his return to Man City. He said John was gutted he had this minor incident, not a big injury. Given the history, we had to be careful. It made no sense to push him through and try stuff that could make it worse. Jamie Carragher delivers alternative view on Mohamed Salah replacement plans. The former Liverpool defender does not feel signing a world-class talent is necessarily the best course of action for the club as it begins to contemplate life after Salah. Jamie Carragher has urged Liverpool not to sign a superstar replacement for Mohamed Salah and rejected the suggestion that the winger is irreplaceable. Salah announced last week that he will leave Liverpool this summer, calling time on his 9-year association with the club. Arne Slot has already been asked about how the Reds will look to replace the Egyptian, and attention has quickly turned to how the team will look next season. Jurgen Klopp last week described Salah as irreplaceable and said that finding an exact replacement for Salah's goal contributions would be impossible. Slot has shared a similar view, pointing to the attacking talent he already has in his ranks and how he can best utilise Florian Wirtz, Alexander Isak and Hugo Ekitike. Asked how Liverpool replaces Salah, Carragher claimed he is not concerned about the void that will be left by the Egyptian's departure and encouraged his former club to sign an up-and-coming star rather than an expensive elite talent. I never agree with that when someone says someone's irreplaceable, the ex-defender told the Liverpool Echo's Paul Gorst. Go through the years of the players that we've had at this football club, and for me, whether you think he's a right winger or not, he's our goal scorer. A few years before Mo Salah, they had Luis Suarez, Michael Owen, Robbie Fowler. I'm not saying it will be easy to replace him. It won't, of course, but you might get a different type of right winger. You might get someone who's more creating for the central strikers. So I don't think he's irreplaceable. I don't believe as well that Liverpool need to go and sign a superstar as such. Mo Salah wasn't a superstar when we signed him. He wasn't sure he was going to play. So we bought superstars last summer and it hasn't quite worked out as of yet. Buy the right player for the right reasons. That's what Liverpool need to get back to doing. Salah returns to action on Saturday for the first time since that announcement when Liverpool travels to Manchester City in the FA Cup. The 33-year-old could have just 10 games remaining for the club, depending on the Reds' success in cup competitions. Exclusive Dominic Szoboszlai on Liverpool Life. Dream final and becoming a dressing room leader. Liverpool midfielder Dominic Szoboszlai speaks exclusively to the Echo at the Football for Change Easter lunch. It speaks to Dominic Szoboszlai's competitive spirit that a private video message from Steven Gerrard, which features a playful request for a game of padel, quickly takes on a more serious edge. If he wants to play, then I need to start training for that now, the Liverpool star says as he stirs his latte next to his wife Borka at the city's plush Titanic Hotel on Thursday. The Gerrard challenge, it seems, has been accepted. It was that same will to win that meant Szoboszlai never countenanced losing his place in the team last summer when the club embarked upon the biggest spending spree in their history, laying out around £440 million on new recruits that included Germany playmaker Florian Wirtz for £116 million. When Wirtz arrived from Bayer Leverkusen, many believed Szoboszlai's place would be most threatened, but the Hungary skipper has elevated his game further, despite a collective dip that has been inescapable for Arne Slot's squad. It's nearly 3 years now since Liverpool completed a £60 million deal for Szoboszlai as his release clause entered its final hours with RB Leipzig. It was a whirlwind deal that was wrapped up quickly, but Szoboszlai's first interactions with his new boss Jurgen Klopp didn't initially get off to the most ideal start. It was really weird, Szoboszlai tells the Echo in an exclusive interview, because always when I am close to a new deal or something is about to change, my agent tells me only at the end, so I don't know anything about it until I have to decide about something. It was really quick. He said they were interested. I said, let's go. Jurgen called me and then I signed. But yeah, that is true. Unfortunately, I missed Klopp's call. But he was sitting in a car, so I called him back quickly. I apologised that I couldn't get on the first phone call, and he was okay with that. I remember being on holiday with my friends, and then my agent called me to be available in maybe 2 or 3 hours because Jurgen is going to call you. I then forgot, and I was in the sea. So my friends are running out saying, your phone is ringing and Jurgen is calling you. So I was running back to the place and I had to call him back. I had to say, sorry, I forgot it. And then we started to speak, and obviously he told me he would like to have me here, and I said, I am ready to come. Having listened to You'll Never Walk Alone on repeat on the flight to Merseyside for his medical, Szoboszlai was determined to immerse himself in his new club's culture as much as possible prior to making his Anfield bow. I knew how big Liverpool was, actually, but once you are inside, you realise properly what it does mean to be a Liverpool player. It was unbelievable because I still remember I had to choose my shirt number, and I knew that Naby Keita was no longer here, so number 8 was free. So that was an easy choice.
Then, when I stepped into the training ground, seeing how everything is there and what kind of players are playing here, it was just a dream come true for me. The idea of taking the number 8 might have been one many players, particularly those arriving for big money fees, would have been keen to avoid, but Szoboszlai was drawn to the shirt because of Gerrard and his Anfield legacy.
And while comparisons between the pair have been aired a few times during an impressive personal campaign for the current number 8, Szoboszlai says he is not looking to replicate what the iconic former skipper did at Liverpool, insisting he can become a totem of the team in a different way. It is a big compliment, he says, speaking at the Easter lunch of Merseyside charity Football for Change, which is chaired by Jamie Carragher. But many times I just try to do my own story, and sometimes we struggle as a team, but we always try to put everything on the pitch. And then this season I do stuff off the pitch, trying to help the new guys coming from different leagues. I know how it feels to be new, and I know how hard it is to come to the Premier League, and especially Liverpool, where you are always expected to win trophies.
I hope I am becoming a leader, but you have to ask someone else how they see it. But I try to do my best on and off the pitch. Try to keep everyone together, try to be a leader with what I am doing on the pitch, and that is the most important thing for me. Hopefully we can change this season in a good way. 12 goals, many of them spectacular, and 8 assists in a difficult campaign that has seen Szoboszlai often asked to fill in at right back is testament to how well he has performed and the consistency of his displays. Even led to Mohamed Salah branding his colleague as one of the world's best players back in February. It's a great feeling that one of the greatest players who has ever played for Liverpool talks about you like this, Szoboszlai says. I am close with him, but I know he doesn't say that because we are close. He says it because he means it, and I am really thankful for him.
10 Premier League defeats leave Liverpool battling to secure Champions League participation next season. But at the start of April, the Reds still find themselves fighting it out on 3 fronts, with 2 huge quarter-finals to come in the coming days against Manchester City in the FA Cup on Saturday lunchtime and Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League next week. Szoboszlai admits the prospect of winning the Champions League in the Hungarian capital of Budapest is a dream that is fueling the coming weeks, saying, I don't like to talk about it, but it is impossible not to think about it. So sometimes I just have a little hint in my head and talk with my wife sometimes how it will be. And I cannot imagine it, to be honest. To be there in Budapest to play the final, it is what I am working for every day. Especially in Hungary, in my country, everyone knows what it means to be Hungarian. And my biggest dream was to win the Champions League in my whole career. So if I could win it there, I would sign it now. We haven't given up on anything. We are just realistic, and we go for 2 more trophies and what we can achieve. It is the FA Cup and the Champions League, and hopefully at the end of the day we can take something. Szoboszlai is settled on Merseyside with his wife and their daughter, who was born in August last year, and the 25-year-old attributes his growth in stature and importance at Anfield to how his outlook has changed since embracing fatherhood. It has changed me a lot, he says. I was a really angry person after games if something didn't work as much as I wanted it to. But since she was born, I get angry now for 2 minutes, and then I think about her, and then I realise what the most important thing in life is. The prospect of his Liverpool future has populated the discourse around Szoboszlai in recent months, and the club remain in talks with his representatives EM Sports to secure a deal that is in line with the progress he has made since he joined in the summer of 2023. Szoboszlai was keen to steer clear of muddying the waters further on that front, but negotiations are ongoing, and it is understood he is eager to extend his stay for the long term at the place he now calls home with his young family. I love being here, he says. My family is happy. I love the club. I love the fans. I love to play for this club, and that is it. Arne Slot details unexpected Mohamed Salah replacement outlook with Liverpool transfer plans in motion, while the Reds will need to find a new goal-scoring outlet that may not come in the form of a new winger. Arne Slot gave an insight into his thinking and how involved he is in next summer's plans. Arne Slot hinted that the Premier League's evolving style may lead Liverpool to avoid signing a direct replacement for Mohamed Salah this summer, with much of the focus on finding solutions from within. The Reds are beginning to contemplate life after the prolific Egyptian moves on, with Salah last week confirming this season will be his last at the club. The 33-year-old begins his farewell tour with an FA Cup trip to Manchester City on Saturday, and the focus has already turned to how the Reds will replace Salah. However, with over £300 million, $396 million spent on attacking resources last summer, another expensive outlay looks unlikely. Slot insisted he is involved in the club's recruitment plans and finding Salah's successor, but said it is probably impossible to identify a like-for-like change.
Of course we do, Slot said, when asked if the club is drawing up transfer plans for the post-Salah era. We are not starting to work on it now because we are constantly working on where we can improve. There is not a lot talked about this, but it is 88 minutes that Alexander Isak, Hugo Ekitike and Florian Wirtz were together on the pitch together, he added, on last summer's arrivals. So let's first find out and work out how that works together, and that can give us so much more. It is never one player who can replace Mo. Otherwise there would be 15 or 20 Mos, and he is one of a kind, which is why he is so special. You cannot find a Mo replacement. Maybe you can, but he would not be available. Yes, I am involved in summer planning. I know why you asked this question. Liverpool has been accused of lacking physicality this season, something Salah has contributed to, and Slot implied that the lack of free-flowing play in the Premier League could impact the summer recruitment drive.
How the league has changed is maybe not so much to do with the winger position that we need to recruit, but we are aware that football has changed in England. We will always try to have our own style, but we cannot shut our eyes for the new reality. It's not only low blocks, it's also set piece after set piece after set piece. One of the reasons why we haven't been successful in the first half of the season was mainly set pieces. Yes, I'm fully involved in next season and we have these discussions as well. How can we unlock a low block? Wingers are very important to unlock a low block, as we noticed last season with Mo and Luis Diaz. But there are more things that you have to be aware of, like set pieces, defending all these long throw-ins and all these pieces that teams do. Maybe having someone that has a long throw-in, because when we had this with Joe Gomez, we immediately scored against Nottingham Forest. So you try to make the team as best as possible, and that's why replacing Mo on a one-on-one is probably impossible. So we have to find a way of making it work that the team is stronger, but it would already make our team much stronger if we've got Alex, Hugo and Florian together available for a bit more than 88 minutes this year.